So by this point in time, you've probably heard about the Success After iOS 14 webinar, and you're like, what am I going to learn? By the way, you can sign up at apply.facebookdisruptor.com. I'm just letting you know that now, so make sure you don't miss it. So what are you really going to learn here? Is it really even worth your time? Let me cover the 4 really big topics that we're really going to address. Now, the first thing is how to make ads that will last for months or years. Because the honest truth is, most people put way too much time and energy into getting tremendously in their own way and completely ignore the scientific method when trying to test ads because they don't even understand what their primary objective needs to be. It has very little to do with actually making an ad that's going to convert. It has way more to do with giving the system a really good opportunity to present content that ultimately will give a really positive end user experience that also delivers desirable business objectives. And your primary goal is to give the system a consistently improving selection of choices to make on your behalf. That's how you go from working hours a day to hours a week when managing platform. And by the way, this has to do the same thing with Facebook as it does on TikTok and a lot of other platforms. Everything that has dynamic ads and gives a damn about the end user experience, this is how you actually make it work. So we're going to dive into that, not only how to do it, but really getting into the data behind it, why you should be doing that stuff, and the big things to really keep in mind, and ultimately how to establish whether or not you need to design a new creative for scale or for efficiency. So learning how to make ads that last for months or years instead of stuff that lasts for a few days and burns out, and how to structure your account so that you're not completely destroying yourself by doing something terrible like working hard or teaching the machine what to do. Remember, the more you micromanage your employees, the worse you're going to do. Facebook is your employee. You're the manager. Your job is to train it to do well and to give it better and better choices to make on your behalf. The next thing that we're going to work out is measurement after iOS 14. The honest truth is, people are scared, like Facebook's not giving me all the, attribution that it possibly deserves. Facebook's not built on credit. Digital marketing isn't built on who gets credit for each sale. That's a lie from salespeople from over 2 decades ago. What you really need to do is understand that the machine is going to be wrong. If it is wrong, it's going to be wrong by the same amount all the time because it's a computer program. It does the exact same thing every single time. So how do we really focus on measuring what do we do here to make this platform better so that ultimately creates more incremental lift to our entire ecosystem? If you want to run Facebook ads really well, it has very, very little to do with ROAS and MER because those are nonsense metrics anyway. What it really has to do with is how do we create incremental lift and how do we set up our employees and our machine to do the work for us in a sustainable and positive way that ultimately becomes very easy for us to manage so we can solve very simple and big problems and spend the majority of our time on things that actually matter. Because the bottom line is you can crush Facebook ads in a few hours a week. And if you're working harder than that, it means you probably don't have creative testing or your measurement down. So we need to really understand, how does the system work? How do we make it better? How do we measure results? And how do we get to incremental lift rather than really focusing in on some nonsense metric like ROAS or MER or chasing a bunch of different ad sets that are all competing with each other. And then you say, well, my lookalike and my interest is far outbeating my broad. But no, it isn't. It's getting you a better result on less spend because you're stealing the low-hanging fruit, and ultimately you're working really hard to make the machine dumb, and it's really the reason why you're struggling to grow. It isn't because Facebook isn't spending all the money on the best audience. It's because what you think is the best audience is probably actually the thing that's hurting you the most. And that's something you need to understand. The third thing that we're going to get to in here is system and process to manage your team and your time. One of the most painful things that I hear people go through when they're running their own businesses or they're running agencies or they're a freelancer is the inability to communicate in a way that allows you to leave. If you can't project manage your team and your time in a fashion that basically means that you don't need to talk to the client, you don't need to personally manage your employees, you don't need anything other than to say, this is your responsibility, this is what I need from you in order to make things work. If your complication And if your communication creates a more complicated system than that, then you absolutely have an opportunity to improve. And I'm going to show you what I've done. It's called Success Protocol, to ultimately understand how to repeat wins, how to avoid making the same mistakes over and over again, and how to make sure that your creative team and your clients and your, business manager and the ads manager person, how do they all not need you? And more importantly, how do you make it so that when somebody leaves for the business or has a sick day or goes on holiday for a week, how do you make sure that business as usual is achieved on a daily basis? Because the honest truth is, any one of my ad accounts, I could hand it to anybody that has gone through Success Protocol and understands this, which is a lot of what I teach in the Facebook Ads MBA program. I could literally leave, hand them the book, and on day one, they're going to be 98% as good as me on managing everything. So if you want people to be 98% as good as you the day that you leave, or if you want to be 98% as good as me managing your account on a day-to-day basis, Success Protocol is absolutely fundamental to managing your team and your time. And if you don't have this stuff in place, if you're still relying on third-party software to do project management, and look, I get that every team needs that kind of stuff, but if your client calls over 15 minutes a week, if you're still unable to make sure your creative team understand what ads are working, and if you still have problems about whose responsibility is stuff, or you don't know the move you're going to make next week, next month, then this is an easy win for you to take on. And the fourth thing that we're going to be covering is something that is absolutely crucial to success. Why hacks don't work. Basically, we're going to get down to how the Facebook algorithm works and why trying to cheat it only makes things more difficult for you. If you've tried to struggle to find the next audience, maybe you're still using ABO or relying on bid caps or cost caps, you're testing single ads and things and then trying to run it through a scaling campaign. Any of these things that have been objectively proven to be a bad idea years ago, but are taught by and championed by a lot of the big thinkers because they still exist inside the echo chamber of people that aren't really knowing what they're talking about. If you're still managing like that, there's a big reason why you're seeing struggle. And you know what? The honest truth is, some businesses are incredibly successful doing that stuff because the business doesn't need them to be good at Facebook for the business to work. So we really can understand, why don't these hacks work? Why are they getting in our way? How do we get our work day down to a couple hours a week instead of a couple hours a day? If you're still day trading Facebook, if you're still sitting in a spot where you're not confident in what your move needs to be tomorrow or next week, if your customer or your client or your agency or your vendor or your creative team phone calls, if any of this communication is over 15, 20 minutes a week, then you really need to work on that communication, on that system and process. Understand how the machine works. Understand how measurement works so you're not chasing bullshit numbers, and ultimately how to make ads that can last for weeks or months so that you can spend your time doing the things that actually matter, like improving LTV, improving conversion rate, and getting better offers to raise the AOV on that initial purchase, or just enjoying your life. If those are things that right now you can't even begin to work on because you're still trying to day trade Facebook and see whatever people are talking about on the internet to try to recreate their out of context and unstable result that honestly is probably a bad idea 3 years ago when it first came to the table, and it's still not a good idea today, then the Success After iOS 14 webinar, which you can sign up for at apply.facebookdisruptor.com, it's free. It's going to be really good for you. I'm literally going over all this stuff for about an hour. And the point of this is ultimately to help you be more successful. Every single day, I see people that struggle. I see people that take advice from folks that really don't know what they're talking about. And the bottom line is, that is putting people's careers, the food on their table, and the jobs they could create for others in jeopardy. And to be fair, I figured this stuff out years ago. You know what I mean? Like, I've spent hundreds of millions of dollars. I've taught Facebook how to do things to the point where they've spent years trying to tell people what to do, and they still don't use CBO. They still don't use broad. They still don't use dynamic creative. They're still trying to hack the machine and complaining when their CPMs are going up and like the struggles around the problem of their cost pers and all this other stuff. Like, if you're not being a good business partner to Facebook, don't be shocked you're not getting good results from Facebook. If you disrespect your partner in any partnership, don't be shocked when the outcome doesn't work your way. So my point here is this. If you're struggling right now where you're spending more than a few hours a week on Facebook, if you're not really confident about what your next move is next week, next month, And if the time it takes for you to project manage and communicate with your team is more than 15, 20 minutes a day, then you desperately need to get into this thing, and it's free. So with that being said, apply.facebookdisruptor.com, go in there, sign up. I can't wait to see you, and I really, really hope the best for you. And I'll leave you with this. You absolutely deserve success. Millionaires are being made every single day. And the people who are the absolute best at this stuff, very few of them actually teach. And the loudest voices in the room tend to be the ones repeating the same bad advice from several years ago. And their success has very little to do with their effort. And I'm not saying that as a pejorative to people. I was crushing running CBS and Nissan and working with the Activision and Levi's team. But let me ask you this. Do you think, legitimately, that the success of Call of Duty had anything to do with the 7-figure budget I had on Facebook? The answer is no. But my numbers look good. So if you want to start being able to get out of the emotion of feeding the ego of a marketer and start to actually grow your business by managing your time, your team, your resources, and project managing and time management, this is perfect for you. So again, apply.facebookdisruptor.com, go up, sign up. It's free. I'll see you there. If you have any questions about anything, please feel free to ask me, comment, DM, whatever. And if you enjoy what I have to say and you really love all this stuff, it would mean the world to me if you could share what I'm doing with one person. Because the honest truth is, 85, 90% of the advice out there is absolute trash. And I'm here to help because you deserve it. And nobody was there for me. I started when Facebook didn't have attribution. I started before there was a pixel. When I started, CPMs were $1 or $2. And you had to edit your Facebook account with Excel. I've been around. I've seen what works and what doesn't work. And what works for every business, every niche, every model. What doesn't work fails everyone all the time. So if you're sick and tired of things not working out for you, I'll see you there. Until next time, I'll see you on the internet. Bye!